Hi, I'm Shashwat. I hope you're having a really great day. Sometimes when we are working on a composition, it might become difficult to understand where the nodes are going, where they are connecting, or even what a particular cluster of node is doing. So in this episode, we are going to explore some tips on how to optimize our Fusion workflow environment so that it's more readable and understandable. So, the first thing that we're going to look at is how to change a Fusion workspace. Right now we are looking at the default workspace. This is the viewer window, this is the nodes editor, and this is the inspector window. Now, we have a very small area to view our nodes. So if we try and extend it, it now takes up the space of the viewer window. And now we can't see our viewer window clearly. So this is not a very optimal way of working. Now, to change our workspace, we go to Window, View Layouts. Or if you are using DaVinci Resolve, then Workspace, Layout Presets, Fusion Presets. And over here, Fusion has provided us with some pre-built presets. Right now we can see that we are in the default window. So let's select Mid-Flow. And as we can see, our workspace has changed. The viewer window is here, the nodes editor is in the center, and the inspector window is in the right. And the viewer window is split vertically. Or we can use mid-flow vertical, which keeps the rest of the workspace as it is, except now the viewer window is split horizontally. Similarly, we can choose left flow. Now the nodes editor is in the left side, the inspector window is in the right side, and the viewer window is in the center. Or we can choose left flow vertical, where the only change is that the viewer window is split horizontally. Now, if you are using bigger monitor or dual screen, then we have 4 more presets. For Resolve, we first need to activate dual screen. So we go back to workspace and in the dual screen we click on. Now we can go to layout presets, fusion presets, and we have presets for dual screen. The default dual just separates our extra tabs like keyframe, splines, and effects onto another window. Then we have the big view, where the viewer window is separated from the rest of the workspace, so we get a big space for nodes and the viewer window. Big nodes, on the other hand, separates the node editor along with effects and inspector onto a new window, while the primary window is left with the viewer window, spline, and keyframe tabs. Or we can choose this big spline, which is similar to big nodes, but it's giving more workspace to the spline editor. So these are some of the presets that we can choose from, and I'm going to select mid-flow vertical. So this is a very simple composition. We have a sky that we created using the fast noise and the background node. We have this ground which we masked out using the ellipse mask and then used the transform node to place it. And we have this text layer which we have merged using a bitmap and a fast noise to get this effect. And then we added some glow to it. Finally, we merged them together and slapped a color corrector node between them. And this is what our output looks like. Now, we can clearly see this composition is very disorganized. So let's tidy it up a little bit. First, we can see that the nodes are just floating freely, and even if we try to align them, they are still untidy. What we want is to snap them to the grid so that they look neat and understandable. To do so, right-click in the node editor, go to Arrange Tools and select By Grid. Now when we move the nodes, we can see that they are snapping to the grid. Same with this one. Now we can very easily and quickly organize the node tree. There we go. Now we can see that we have formed some sort of groups. We have this group over here which is the text group, we have this group which is the sky group, and we have this group which is the earth group. Now in a small composition like this, it's easier to understand what is happening. But in a much bigger or complex composition, it will become much more difficult to understand what each of these groups are doing or even how they are connecting or flowing. To solve this, we can use a fusion tool to create a box around these groups. And that tool is the underlay node. To use this node, right-click in the nodes editor, go to Add Tool, Flow, and select Underlay. Now, all we have to do is to grab the edges and bunch some nodes together like so. And once we are done, click and drag on the underlay node and move it around, and we can see that all of these nodes move alongside it. We can also rename this by pressing F2, and we will rename this group Earth Group. Now before you press OK, you should know that if you are renaming your underlay after boxing your nodes, what's going to happen is that the Fusion is going to ask if you want to rename every node that is boxed within this underlay node. Here we just have 3 nodes, but if we have multiple nodes, way more than 3, then we would have to either press OK or cancel for all of them. Here, look what happens if I press OK. Now it's asking if we want to rename the background as well. So now we can press OK or cancel, but then it's going to ask us if we want to rename this one, and so on. So if we have multiple nodes like 10, 20 or 50 nodes boxed in by an underlay, then it's going to be a tedious process pressing cancel or OK for every one of them. So the solution for this is that we rename the underlay before we box the node. Now we know that this is the sky group, so let's rename this sky group. Now let's box these nodes like so. Then click and move it around, and we have boxed these nodes without having to go through the renaming process. Now let's do the text as well. There we go. So this is how we group our nodes together, and we can also recolor these underlays. So let's go to the inspector window. We'll select the text group, click on this drop down, and we can give it any color. Same with the sky group. And we can also change the color of the earth group. In fact, let's give the earth group green color, and let's change the sky group to blue color and change the text group to orange. Okay, so now we have also color coded them, and this is how we use the underlay node. Now, the next node that we're going to look at is a very interesting tool and a useful one as well. It's called the Sticky Notes tool. Using this tool, we can write notes to not only remind ourselves of what's happening in this composition, but also to someone else who's working on that same project, explaining where we are, what's happening, what each of these groups are doing, etc. etc. Now to add that, right-click in the Notes editor, go to Add Tools, go to Flow, and we will select Sticky Notes. Right now, it looks like a very small little box, but if you double-click on it, this opens up to a Notes editor. So let's quickly write a note. For example, let's write a note for this Earth group, and we're going to say Earth group needs some grass. And we have just written a note to ourselves reminding us that we need to add grass to this Earth group. And we can also rename this, press F2, and we will rename this as Earth Group Notes. And we can place it over here, or we can drag and drop it over here. Okay, now let's do one more. Let's add a note to remind us that we need to work a little bit more on the text group. So let's add a sticky note, and we're going to write, the text needs to be worked on a little bit more. And let's place it over here close to our text group. So this is the Sticky Notes tool. Now the last tool that we're going to look at is the most useful tool to organize the node tree. Right now we can see that these wires or pipes, these are going diagonally from the transformer node directly to the merge node, and similarly over here we have this diagonal that is being hidden behind the sticky notes. Now in a big and complicated project, this can be an issue because we will spend most of our time just figuring out where each of these pipes are connecting to. To solve this, Fusion has provided us another tool, and that is the Pipe Reroute tool. And the way to use this tool is to hover our mouse cursor over the pipe until it changes color, and then press Alt and left click on the pipe to create this joint that we can now place like so. And now we have created a new route. Now this is how the pipe is flowing. And we can do the same thing over here. And now this pipe is flowing around the nodes. And over here as well. This is a very interesting one. In fact, we can see that there are two outgoing pipes from this text node. Now we can go and create a joint here and then replace this pipe input with that one. But there is another easier way. We hover our mouse cursor just about this edge until both of these pipes change color like this. Then we press Alt and press the left mouse button, and we have now created a reroute node. And we can add another one over here and one over here as well. So this is how we use the reroute node. Now this composition is much clearer and easier to understand. And we can see how the sky group flows and connects with the earth group using the merge node. And then we have this color corrector. And finally we have this text group which merges down here. And this is the final output. So these are just some of the tools that we can use to reorganize a Fusion workflow experience so that it's not only understandable to us, but it's also understandable to another person who is also working on that same project. So I hope this helps. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that bell icon. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. Until next time, see you.